Did you know that everything happening in your life, even the lack of money, is something you attracted? And more than that, right now, you are vibrating at the frequency of what you fear the most. Sounds crazy, right? But this isn't philosophy. This is physics. Vibration is at the root of everything. It's the principle that governs your mind, your body, your success or failure, and especially your money. So let me ask you honestly, how many times have you seen a wealthy person and thought, that's not for me? How many times have you asked yourself, why is it always someone else who succeeds? Today, I'm going to show you exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how you can change it. I used to believe that making money was extremely hard. That money only came to others, not me. That maybe I wasn't born with that gift, or that the universe handed out all the opportunities while I was still asleep. But then one day, the truth hit me like a lightning bolt. Money is energy. And everything in the universe vibrates, including you, me, and money itself. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract money effortlessly, while others work tirelessly and still struggle to pay their bills? It's not luck, it's vibration. What you're putting out there, whether you realize it or not, everything vibrates. Nothing is truly still. Even a rock is moving on a microscopic level. Science has proven that. Albert Einstein said, everything is energy. And that's all there is to it. So listen closely. If everything is energy and you're part of that energy, then you are vibrating at every moment. And the frequency of your vibration determines what you attract into your life. Want to know what you're vibrating? Just look around. Your bank account reflects your inner frequency. So do your relationships, your body, your home. They're all results of the dominant vibration you're sending out. The universe responds with absolute precision. It's like tuning a radio. You can't hear jazz if you're on a heavy metal station. Prosperity is the same. You can't connect to the frequency of wealth if you keep vibrating in lack. So now be honest with me. How do you feel when you think about money? Anxious? Scared? Insecure? Angry? Or do you feel excited? Your answer reveals your current vibration. Most people are stuck in a spiral of fear. What if I can't pay the bills this month? What if I lose my job? What if everything falls apart? They think they're focused on money, but what they're really doing is radiating lack and attracting more of it. And here's the wild part. They think they're working towards success, but in truth, they're swimming against the current, carrying thoughts and feelings that drag them deeper. It's like trying to swim forward with an anchor tied to your ankle, and that anchor is the vibration of lack. Have you been there before? When everything seems to be going well, and then bam, an unexpected bill, a financial emergency, and suddenly, you're back at square one. That's not bad luck. That's your vibration playing out with precision. I remember a time when I couldn't even afford rent. I worked jobs I hated, was always broke, always drained, and honestly, had no hope left. Until one day, someone said to me, "Hey Bob, your daily emotions are creating the reality you live in." That sentence hit me like a brick. How could that be true? I didn't want that kind of life. But deep down, I was feeding it. I was constantly focused on what I lacked. I gave off energy of fear, worry, and doubt, and the universe simply mirrored it back. That was the turning point. I started diving deep into the law of vibration, and I realized everything begins in the mind. Whenever you think something and feel it strongly, you activate brain cells that send out a signal, a vibration. That vibration directly affects the energy field around you. Some call it the universe, some call it the quantum field. It doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is it works, and it's working all the time, for everyone, including you. From that moment on, things started to change. I stopped focusing on what I didn't have and started tuning into the reality I wanted to experience. I visualized the life of my dreams. I felt as if I was already living it. I acted like I had already received it. At first, it felt like make-believe. But slowly, my frequency began to shift, and with it, my reality. You might be wondering, yeah, Bob, but how do I change my vibration when everything around me says otherwise? How do I feel rich when I'm drowning in debt? Let me tell you something. You don't need to have money right now to feel like you already do. The only thing you need to do is make the decision to shift your emotions. Because emotions are vibrations, and vibration is creation. Let's start simple. Close your eyes. Now imagine, what would your life look like if you were financially abundant? Picture yourself waking up and choosing whatever you want to do that day. Imagine paying your bills with joy. Imagine traveling, donating, investing, living your dreams. Imagine smiling with a heart that feels light and free. Now, feel it. Just for 1 minute, live in that feeling. Your body will begin to shift. Your cells will respond. The energy field around you will begin to realign. And without realizing it, you'll start attracting opportunities you never noticed before. You think that's a coincidence? It's not. It's physics. When you change your frequency, reality that matches that frequency finds you. And remember, this isn't pretending. This isn't faking it. This is training your mind to vibrate with intention. It's using your awareness to create. It's realizing you are not a victim. You are the creator of your life. So today, I leave you with one question. If every emotion you feel is shaping the life you live, do you really want to keep feeling the way you feel now? If the answer is no, then change it right now. Because you can, because you deserve to. Because all the power is already within you, and it always has been. Have you ever realized that everything you're living today started with an image in your mind? Maybe you didn't notice it clearly, but it's true. The images you hold, especially when combined with strong emotion, are what mold your external reality. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Your health, your relationships, your money, all of it starts from within. Most people think life changes from the outside in. They think they'll be happy once they make more money. They think they'll feel relieved once the debt is gone. They think they'll feel safe once they reach financial stability. But life doesn't work like that. It never has. First, you have to feel peace on the inside, see abundance through the eyes of your mind, visualize a new reality clearly and often. Only then will it start to show up on the outside. The problem is, almost no one does this consciously. They live with distorted mental images, images of failure, rejection, fear, and lack. And they feed those images every single day. When they look at their bank account and say, "I'll never make it." When they think, "There's no way I can survive this month." When they feel jealous of someone else's success. Those images become subconscious patterns, and those patterns eventually become reality. You might ask, how can I create a new image when everything around me shows the opposite? And I'll tell you, the image doesn't come from what you see. It comes from what you choose to create in your mind. The most amazing thing is this. You have the power to create anything you want, regardless of your current circumstances. In fact, that's exactly when you must do it, despite what's happening around you. I still remember the first time I sat alone on an old sofa in a tiny rented room on a street called Marpet Lane. I had no team, no money, no foundation. But that day, I closed my eyes and said, I'm going to build a company that operates worldwide. And you know what? I wrote that down. I wrote it as if it had already happened. And every day, I read that sentence as if it were a prophecy that couldn't be stopped. That was the moment I began living from the image in my mind. It was no longer a vague dream. I saw my company. I saw the people working with me. I saw the offices in different countries, the packed seminars, the stages filled with thousands of people. And most importantly, I felt it as if it was already real, even when there was no proof, even when the outside world screamed impossible. Inside me, it was real. And then, decades later, I was sitting at home when I got a call from my partner, McKay. She said, "Hey Bob, we just got confirmation. Our company is now present in every country in the world." In that moment, I flashed back. I remembered that piece of paper. I remembered the image. I remembered the vibration. What was once a lonely thought had become a global reality. Maybe you think you need luck, connections, capital, or a degree. But I had none of those. The only thing I had was an image that grew inside me, so powerful that the universe had no choice but to respond. And now I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what image are you feeding in your mind? When you close your eyes, what do you see? Because if all you see are unpaid bills, debt, limits, and fear, then that's exactly what you're creating. It doesn't matter how badly you say you want more. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your emotions. That's why your imagination is one of the most powerful mental faculties you have. But sadly, it's also one of the most misused. Most people only use their imagination to picture the worst-case scenario, to magnify worries that haven't even happened, to create mental disasters that don't exist. And when you use imagination against yourself, it becomes an invisible enemy, quietly destroying your life. But when you use it with clarity, with intention, with purpose, it becomes the key to conscious creation. A few years before everything in my life changed, I was drowning in debt. My income wasn't even enough to survive. I had dropped out of school, had no degree, and no confidence whatsoever. To be honest, I was the perfect picture of failure. Until one day, a man named Racer Stanford handed me a book. It was called Think and Grow Rich. And he said to me, "Create a clear image in your mind of the life you want. Live in that image. Don't worry about what others say. Don't focus on what you currently have. Just see it clearly." And from that moment on, I did. And everything began to change. Today, I want to ask you something. Why don't you have the life you truly desire yet? Is it because you don't deserve it? Of course not. Is it because you haven't been lucky? That's a lie. The real reason is very simple. The image you hold in your mind about yourself and your life does not match the life you want to live. And that's exactly where the change must begin. It's not about your salary. It's not about the government. It's not about the market or your boss. It starts in your mind with the image you accept, nurture, and emotionally connect to as if it were already true. Start writing it down. Every day, write out the life you want. Put it into words. Imagine yourself already living it. Feel the energy of that life. Act as if you're living it now. At first, it might feel strange, but very quickly, your entire inner system will begin to adjust, and the outer world will begin to respond. You are the only one who can change that image inside you. And when you do, everything around you begins to shift. Have you ever noticed how many people study hard, work even harder, and still struggle financially their whole lives? It seems unfair, doesn't it? But the truth is, it's not. They're simply missing awareness of one crucial thing, a mindset. Your mindset is a collection of beliefs and subconscious programs that drive over 90% of your behavior, and therefore determine the results you get in life. Most people are taught from a young age that making money is hard, and that wealth only comes to those who already have it. And those beliefs quietly take root in the mind. When you believe, even unconsciously, that you're not worthy of abundance, that you don't have what it takes, or that it's just not meant for me, the universe responds perfectly. It sends you experiences that match the vibration you're putting out. I used to live that way. I earned very little. I was drowning in debt, and I believed the problem was the world. But the truth was, the real problem was my mindset. I believed that life was a constant struggle, and the universe, ever faithful, brought me more struggle. Then I remembered something Racer Stanford once told me. "Hey Bob, everything you're experiencing is a reflection of the image you hold of yourself." That one sentence woke me up, because it was the truth. I had to change my inner image. Remember this, knowledge alone is not enough. There are people who've read dozens of books, attended countless seminars. They know exactly what they should do, but nothing changes. Why? Because the information never reaches the subconscious, the place where your mindset lives. And it's the subconscious that creates your vibration, and your vibration is what attracts and shapes your entire reality. I once met a woman who was the perfect example of this. She was a single mother, buried in debt, and she truly believed that a woman on her own could never become wealthy. But one day, she made a decision to change that belief. She began writing a new image for herself, visualizing, repeating positive affirmations, and shifting her energy frequency. 1 year later, she had paid off all her debts, launched a successful online business, and looked at me with eyes full of light and said, "I'm living proof that your mindset is not your destiny." And she was absolutely right. Science confirms this through the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. You can change the pathways in your brain, but it takes emotional repetition, clarity, and above all, a firm decision. So now I ask you, what beliefs about money are you still holding on to that might be silently sabotaging your life? Because as long as those beliefs remain, your results will stay the same. But if you truly commit to reprogramming your inner world, there is no limit to what you can achieve. The problem was never the outside world. It has always been the internal pattern, your mindset. And that mindset, you can absolutely rewrite. There's one truth that can change everything. You don't need to know exactly how things will happen for them to happen. What you really need is to align yourself with the right frequency. Because when you do, the right people, the perfect timing, and the necessary resources will start to appear, as if drawn to you by an invisible force. But it's not magic. It's vibration. And this is how life works. It has always worked this way, even long before you became aware of it. Many people ask me, "Hey Bob, how did you attract the right partners, the right opportunities, and success without a formal education or business experience?" And my answer always begins with one word: frequency. I aligned myself with what I wanted. I vibrated with the belief that everything I needed would find its way to me. And it did. I met Sandy Gallagher at a time in my life when I thought the big moments were already behind me. She was a brilliant attorney, a top financial expert, the kind of person I never imagined would become my business partner. But she showed up, drawn in by the principles I was teaching. She committed fully to our mission. And today, she's the CEO of the very company I had dreamed of building since the 1970s. That happened because I held that image in my mind, because I kept vibrating at the frequency of the life I wanted. And most importantly, I didn't need to control the details. I believed that if I aligned with the right frequency, everything else would take care of itself. And it did. Now, maybe you're thinking, "But Bob, I don't know anyone who can help me. No one supports me. Everything feels so hard." I understand that. I've been there. But believe me, you don't need outside support to begin. The only thing you need is to realign your inner world. Because when you do, the outer world will start to reflect that shift. Stop trying to convince others. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You are the one who will attract everything you need through your vibration, through your decision to change from within before the outside world begins to change. Imagine it like this. You're tuned into a radio station that keeps playing the same sad, gloomy music on repeat. That's the frequency of fear, doubt, and scarcity. And as long as you're tuned in there, everything that comes to you will match that energy. Self-sabotaged opportunities, draining relationships, bad decisions, and the constant feeling that you're not enough. Now imagine this. You reach out, turn the dial, and tune into a different station. A frequency of power, clarity, and abundance. The music changes, and everything begins to shift. That's what happens when you change your vibrational frequency. And you might not realize it, but even the smallest decisions can change everything. You know those moments when you think, "This is too much for me?" That thought, it sends out a vibration. Or when you're dreaming about something beautiful, but suddenly your mind whispers, "Yeah, that'll never happen." That doubt, that's also a frequency. And the universe doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you vibrate. So feel it. Feel like you already have what you desire, even before it becomes your reality. That's a skill, a practice, one that aligns you with the life you've been dreaming of. When you adjust your energy frequency consistently, everything begins to move toward you, not as a sudden miracle, but as a natural flow. You start noticing new ideas, a video, a book, a conversation, a person showing up, an unexpected invite, a spark of inspiration, a quiet certainty that you're finally on the right path. Do you know why most people give up before they reach the life they want? Because they're still vibrating in doubt. They start imagining a better life, but then old thoughts creep in. What if it all goes wrong? And without even realizing it, they fall back into their old state. What happens then? More of the same, more struggle, more exhaustion, more repeating cycles. But hear this, because it could change your life. Doubt is the poison that kills dreams before they even have a chance to grow. Faith is the antidote, the power that turns thoughts into reality. Faith in what? In yourself, in the process, in the laws, in God, in the invisible forces aligning everything you're about to experience. You don't need to know every step ahead. You just need to decide what you truly want. Clearly, you need to commit to that image in your mind, even when the outside world still shows you the opposite. Because the right frequency always comes before the physical result. So if today you want to be wealthy, you want to break free from debt, from limits, from mediocrity, then you must start vibrating as someone who's already risen above it all. You must think, feel, and act like someone with choices, freedom, and faith, even if you don't have it all just yet. That's the difference between those who create results and those who are just trying to survive. And if I could leave you with one invitation, it would be this. For the next few days, live as if your new life has already begun. Walk like someone who is abundant. Breathe like someone who is at peace. Speak like someone who knows exactly where they're going. Respond like someone who is in control of their emotions. Because this experience, when repeated, will reprogram your entire inner system. It will change your vibration. And when your frequency changes, everything around you will change too. You won't have to chase after things anymore. You'll become the kind of person who naturally attracts everything they desire. And it all begins with one simple decision. Change your frequency and let the universe handle the rest. Because you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And who you are is completely tied to the frequency you're putting out. When you understand this, everything changes. Because you'll stop trying to change the outside world and start changing your inner world. And that is the turning point. Now that you understand how your vibration creates your reality, it's time to go even deeper. My next video will help you take the next step in your journey of mental and spiritual growth. It's a missing piece, an essential part of your personal transformation. So stay tuned and let's keep moving forward together, because we're getting closer and closer to the most extraordinary version of you. You don't have to be perfect, just be 1% better than yesterday. That's enough. Thank you for walking this path with me, and I'll see you in the next video.